Hey there, YouTube. Ryu here. Now, I actually watched a video from Jim Sterling, and he actually had a pretty good point on weapon and item durability in games. Now, I understand that, his issue with in Zelda Breath of the Wild, that the weapons have way too low of durability. And I've got to agree with him. From what I've seen, the weapon durability is kind of pathetic. Now, on the other hand, he brought up horror survival games and having durability there. Alright, I'll give him that. I mean, especially in stuff like Silent Hill, where, basically it's all powered by the person's mind, and so I get that. But there was one thing that I don't think he mentioned, he may have, and that is in just regular survival games. The first one that comes to mind is Ark. There's a lot of primitive stuff that you make. I can understand the, stick and stone spear breaking very quickly. Do I think that it kind of sucks that there's a chance of it breaking every time that you use it? Yeah, I really do. I mean, you should get a certain amount of uses before that chance happens. Because I can't tell you how many times in that game I've gone through, crafted up 5 spears, and they're heavy, so you can't carry massive amounts on them if you want to be able to carry anything else. And anyone who knows Ark, well, you're going to want to be carrying something other than, like, 15 spears. Or you're going to die very quickly. But there have been times where I've sat there, crafted up, 4 or even 5 of them, gone up against one dino, and first time I hit the dino, snaps. So then I end up pulling out the next one. Pump, snaps. Pump, snaps. Now I'm down to below half of what I started with, and I've attacked 3 times. And there's nothing worse than you pulling out that weapon to use against something that's about to eat your face, and it break on the first hit, and your other weapon is close to breaking as well. Just one of those, either it was just bad timing for that dino to show up, or it was poor planning on your part. It doesn't matter. It really sucks. But I get it. I understand. And honestly, I think Ark is an example of item durability done right. Because once you get up to having the metal pike, those metal pikes last for ages. And I'm talking about the primitive metal pike. I'm not even talking about the masterwork or whatever. I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about the regular metal pike. Does it take a lot of resources? Yes, as it should. But they're all like, okay, this entire thing's made out of metal, so here we go. You're going to have a lot of durability. It lasts a long time. You can go ahead and repair it, so on and so forth. Alright, very understandable. And there have actually been a few times that item durability has actually inadvertently helped gamers out. Now, I played Final Fantasy XI for a long, long time. I got something like, I think it was like 10 different classes all the way up to level cap. And I had multiple characters that would train through their respective skills. Yes, I was one of those people that actually had a character in each city, so that way I could go ahead and mule and that sort of thing. I don't consider it cheating. I was paying the extra $1 a month per character for the convenience of it to save me a 3-hour run. And a lot of people will sit there and go, oh, well, you could have just taken the airship. The quest to get the airship license really sucked, and I'm sorry, 500,000 gil to buy the thing was a bit much. But, anywho, I got sidetracked. Final Fantasy XI. Fishing rods. That's right, fishing rods. It helped you level crafting skills. I mean, hell, there was a time there in the beginning that people would sit there and pay more for a broken fishing rod than they would for a repaired one. That was pretty awesome. I thought that was an amazing thing. Yes, I took advantage of that. I'd go out and purposely fish for things that I knew that rod couldn't handle just to have it snap. I'd purposely snap the rod. Then go ahead, sell 5 or 6 of them at a time. Boom. Money in the bank. But I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm going to make a video about Final Fantasy XI and what I think it did right, what I think it did wrong, and why I'm sad that it's actually starting to really die off now. I'm going to make a separate video about that. I might even make the video tonight. But first I want to get this one out. So, I have to agree with Jim on a few things, but then there are some things, like when he sits there and says that weapon durability isn't fun. Well, that all depends on what type of game you're playing. If you're playing a single-player game, yeah, it sucks. But if you're playing a multiplayer game, it can actually be a pretty fun thing. What I want them to do is bring out an MMO that's actually either reasonable price for a monthly subscription or a free-to-play model that isn't pay-to-win, that isn't going to unbalance the game with things that you can purchase. I know that they can't go with strictly aesthetic stuff. I get that. But I just want to see an MMO done right again, and I think Final Fantasy XI's about as close as you've gotten. I enjoyed Final Fantasy XI even more than I enjoyed World of Warcraft. I played World of Warcraft all the way up to Cataclysm. Now, a lot of people are like, oh, well, you quit at Cataclysm? Oh, you couldn't handle the change? The reason why I couldn't handle the change is because they completely screwed over my main character. My playstyle that I had developed for my character, people were starting to mimic it on my server. I had a huge guild of people, and I ended up quitting because of Cataclysm. It wasn't from weapon durability, it was from changes to the hunter. But again, that's another thing. I'll probably cover that in the Final Fantasy XI video. But I have to agree with Jim on, with single player, having, weapon durability isn't really all that fun unless, you make it one of those things where it's all like, oh, well, okay, I'm heading into town anyway, type of thing. From what I've seen with Breath of the Wild, it's too ridiculous. It's way over the top, and it just seems like it's there strictly to pad out the game. And that isn't what you should be using weapon durability for. And that's a message to all developers. You should not do weapon durability just to pad out the game, just to force people to grind and farm for hours upon hours on end. I can see where some MMOs did it that had a monthly subscription to keep people from just powering through. But if they have friends playing the game, they're gonna end up powering through anyway, because their friends are just gonna be the ones sitting there farming up the stuff with their high level characters, and they're gonna get that person way up there. And I mean, even in World of Warcraft, it was borderline bad. Especially for tanks. I felt so bad for tanks. Tanks paid so much money in gear repairs every single instance, and I just felt so bad for them. I always sat there and gave them a little bit of money afterwards because I knew that they were incurring a lot of costs. And I can understand why a lot of people were damage dealers, because damage dealers typically didn't have that much repair that they needed to do. Especially the clothy ones, you know, the ones for cloth. I mean, the repair costs for that were almost nil. I mean, you would basically make that off of the first round of junk spawns. So not really all that hard of a thing to make up. Whereas with tanks, I mean, especially like with paladins and warriors, I mean, once they got up there and leveled, it got really expensive. One of my buddies, he ended up running through 40-man with me in my guild, and he did pretty well. He did the best out of all the tanks. And even he ended up having something like a 20 or 30,000 gold repair, you know, and I'm like, good God, what the, you know, I mean, yeah, he was in all epic gear, but still, you know, it's like, wow, that's a little on the ridiculous side for cost. I'm obviously exaggerating with the, 20,000, but I mean, it was a good chunk of gold. I mean, hell, from what we actually made from that, like as far as what everyone made from it, I think he ended up coming out with like a 1 gold profit after it was all said and done. Whereas with me, I only ended up having to pay about 3 gold in repairs to my weaponry, because I didn't even get hit on my hunter. So it ended up really, like, when my repairs are similar in cost to what his profit was, I could see why people really hated running tanks on their first run through. A lot of people went with damage dealer, not only because it was an easier thing, and if you screw up, it's not the biggest deal, but I mean, it was just so hard to gear. My buddy, he ended up, he was just straight up paladin. He didn't roll any alternative characters. He went with strictly paladin. He wanted to tank. He wanted to do sub heals. He wanted to do all that sort of stuff. Awesome. Awesome guy to play with. But the problem was he was always broke. And I kept wondering, how in the hell are you broke, dude? I mean, I go out and I can sit there and farm up, gold like there's no tomorrow, and it's not even an issue. My repairs are negligible. Until I ended up actually trying to play as a tank, and it ended up just being a money sink. Trying to keep my gear up there, because people won't even let you into their party without you having some top-notch gear. And that gear can get very expensive, especially if it's gear that you can buy that's a super low chance of a drop. Oh my god. And I wasn't even going for twink gear. You know, I mean, I only had one Twink character, and that was a level 19 Twink Rogue. That was it. So, it was one of those situations of, why in the hell would you want to play as a tank with that item and weapon durability? So I can understand where Jim's coming from, but I think he has a little bit of a narrow scope on it. Like I said, I don't disagree with him entirely. I don't agree with him entirely. I just wanted to go ahead and throw out my view on it and just, clarify that, yes, there are some games that actually do weapon and item durability well. It's just they're probably games that Jim doesn't typically play. I mean, the guy's got a busy schedule. I understand that. But, I have to agree with him. Breath of the Wild, it went a little bit crazy on the durability front. So, hopefully Nintendo can actually hear the complaints at that point, and the next time they go ahead and make a Zelda game, maybe they'll take that out, but still try to innovate in some way. Alright, YouTube. Have a nice day. Go ahead, take care of yourselves, be safe.